guys, thanks for joining me. This video, I'm actually going to make two, so it's got two parts, but we're going to do some signs, some decorative signs, a couple name plaques, because this is a great way to use up scrap wood that you keep around the house. I don't know if you guys do that. I do it. I keep every piece of wood. My husband gets a little irritated because I kind of hoard supplies because can always find a good use for leftover supplies, right? And these make great gifts for everything from a baby, you know, a new baby with the baby's name and the meaning, or co-workers. It's a great gift for like Secret Santas at work. You just come up with a cute little saying and make it, and they can put it on their desk. Or kids. I mean, these are just great for pretty much any gift you could possibly need. So we're going to make some signs, and this is going to be part one. And then in part two, I'm going to go ahead and do the name plaques, all right? So stick around and just see how I do it. You can get some ideas, and you can do it totally differently, but at least it might give you an idea about the process that works for me anyway. Well, I started with a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood. I got it in like 4x3 sheets at Home Depot for like 10 bucks. And then cut them to the size that I wanted using a jigsaw and a fine-tooth blade so you don't tear it up because it's very fragile. And then I sanded it with a 220 grit. I just did it by hand, but sanded it. And now what I'm going to do is put the printing on there. And I just took a saying that I like and I printed it up off the computer with a font that I liked. And now I'm laying it on the wood, placing it there, and going over it with a permanent marker to get it to sink through to the wood just enough to where I can see the writing under the paper. This is a fine tip Sharpie. And I go really slow so it's able to soak through the paper. I'm not very good at freehand lettering, so this helps quite a bit. I'm applying a little decorative pattern here on both sides of the sign, and I'm just tracing it through just like I did with the other. And I traced that one through, and then to get a mirror image on the other side, I just turned the paper over and did the other side. I've heated up my wood burning tool. I've got it on pretty much the hottest. I'm just going to start going over the areas that I marked. Sometimes you have to go at it from a slightly different angle when the grain, sometimes the grain kind of wants to grab the burner. Going at it from different angles helps. So I've finished with the wood burning, and I'm going to put some stain on here. I've got Ipswich pine. Alright, now I'm going to wipe off the excess. All right, sprayed it with the clear coat, and this one's done. So for the painted one, I have to paint it first, obviously, before I do the stenciling. So I'm going to do that really quick. And it's going to be a little rustic, so the painting certainly doesn't have to be perfect. Now after I get all my coverage, I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to do a second coat, applying it in the opposite direction. Moving on to the second coat now, going in the opposite direction. It's going to give me just a really slight linen texture when I sand it. I've finished the painting, and then I did a light sand with 220 grit just to kind of take down the texture just a bit. And now I have used painter tape to apply whatever words I want on there. And I'm going to follow the same steps as before and use a permanent marker, soak through the paper to put my writing actually on the board. I'm going to mess around with some colors here. I'm going to try this dark patina added to this blue acrylic. Just see what we come up with. I'll mix it around pretty good. Yeah, I like how that's coming out. Kind of a teal with just a little bit of metallic in it. Of course, you can use stencils also instead of just the tracing. Now I'm going to go ahead and just put a very simple border around the edge. I just marked it with a ruler. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick second coat on this just because I can kind of see through it a little bit. So make sure I get it all covered. Nice solid color. And I'm just going to spray it with a clear coat, and we're done. So for this sign, I'm going to use some scrapbook paper, and I already did Mod Podge on the back and let it dry. That helps it not wrinkle up on me when I'm putting it on my sign. So I'm going to get some Mod Podge on my brush, brush it on here. A nice thin coat, it's even. Okay. Then I just position my paper where I want it, and I'm going to trim it after it dries. Okay. I just want to match these up so the seam is not super noticeable. Okay, now I've got it placed where I want it, and I'm just going to go through and make sure that all the corners are down. Okay, and we'll just give that a few minutes to get nice and dry. Put a real thin coat on top. Now that it's dry, I've flipped it upside down, and I'm just going to trim the edges with an X-Acto knife. Now that my Mod Podge paper is dry, I used painter's tape to put my print on here, and I just printed up off the computer in the font that I liked and taped it on there. And then this I applied with different craft paper, same principle, Mod Podge, and then I outlined it in fine tip Sharpie and made some little accents there. And now what I'm going to do is trace over this to get my print on there, and then I'll go over it. I'm not sure if I'm going to use a marker or paint, but we'll see what works best. So you can see what it looks like with the permanent marker that went through. Now I'm going over it with just black acrylic craft paint. So that is the first video on decorative signs. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.